In the history of cinema, few films have sparked as much controversy while simultaneously leaving an indelible mark on the cultural landscape as The Last Picture Show. Directed by Peter Bogdanovich in 1971, the film was a gritty, poignant portrayal of small-town life in Texas during the early 1950s. Based on Larry McMurtry's novel, the story follows the lives of several teenagers and adults struggling with love, loss, and the inexorable passage of time. But behind the accolades and critical acclaim, there was a darker side to The Last Picture Show. The film's frank depiction of sexuality and the infamous pool scene featuring Cybill Shepherd ignited a storm of controversy that saw the film banned in several cities, stirred public outrage, and pushed the boundaries of what was considered acceptable in American cinema. Today, we dive deep into the story behind Cybill Shepherd's scandalous pool scene, why it was banned, and how it reshaped both her career and the cinematic landscape. By the end, you'll understand why this unforgettable scene still resonates with audiences over 4 decades later. A film that pushed boundaries. The Last Picture Show was released at a time when American cinema was undergoing a profound transformation. The late 1960s and early 1970s saw a shift away from the sanitized, polished Hollywood productions of earlier decades toward films that dealt with more mature, controversial subjects. Directors were increasingly willing to explore darker themes, and audiences were becoming more receptive to films that reflected the complexities of real life. Peter Bogdanovich's The Last Picture Show fits squarely into this new wave of American filmmaking. Shot in stark black and white, the film was a nostalgic yet unflinching examination of life in a dying Texas town, where the local movie theater was about to close its doors for good. The film was a meditation on the loss of innocence, the ravages of time, and the longing for something better. At the heart of the film were 3 characters: Sonny Crawford, Dwayne Jackson, and J.C. Farrow, played by Timothy Bottoms, Jeff Bridges, and Cybill Shepherd, respectively. Each of these characters was struggling to find their place in the world, grappling with the complexities of love, sex, and identity in a town where the future seemed bleak. For J.C. Farrow, the town's most beautiful girl, that struggle was symbolized in one unforgettable scene, a pool scene that would become one of the most controversial moments in film history. The skinny dipping scene that shook America. Set against the backdrop of a moonlit pool, the scene was intended to capture the essence of youthful rebellion and sexual awakening. Cybill Shepherd's character, J.C., is determined to break free from the constraints of her small-town existence. To prove her independence and allure, she strips off her clothes and slides into the pool, naked and unashamed. Shot with an almost ethereal quality, the scene was meant to reflect J.C.'s inner turmoil and her desire to take control of her life and sexuality. The camera lingers on Shepherd as she glides through the water, her figure illuminated by the pale moonlight. The moment is both serene and seductive, a visual metaphor for the innocence lost and the boldness found in the transition from adolescence to adulthood. But what Peter Bogdanovich intended as an artistic and character-driven moment was interpreted by some as an assault on decency. Almost immediately after its release, the film faced intense backlash. Conservative critics were outraged by the nudity, and protests erupted across the country. In some towns, local authorities moved to ban the film entirely, citing its explicit content as inappropriate for public viewing. Banned and censored. The fallout. In places like Archer City, Texas, where the film was set, the response was especially harsh. The people of Archer City felt that the film painted their town in an unflattering light, and the sight of Cybill Shepherd's nude figure swimming in the pool only intensified their anger. The local newspaper ran articles condemning the film, and church groups organized boycotts. The controversy grew so heated that the city's attorney took the extraordinary step of banning the film from being shown in local theaters. This ban wasn't an isolated incident. Across the United States, conservative groups called for the film to be pulled from theaters, and in some cases they succeeded. Several states initiated legal actions to prevent the film from being screened, and in one Louisiana district, a judge attempted to block the film's distribution entirely. The backlash was swift and severe, and for a time it seemed that the Last Picture Show would become a victim of its own audacity. Yet the controversy only served to fuel the film's notoriety. The more the film was banned and censored, the more curious audiences became. People who might not have otherwise seen The Last Picture Show flocked to theaters, eager to witness the film that had scandalized a nation. Despite the bans and censorship, The Last Picture Show went on to gross $29 million at the box office, a massive success for a film with a modest budget of just $1.3 million. Cybill Shepherd, the star caught in the storm. At the center of the controversy was Cybill Shepherd, a 21-year-old actress and model who was making her film debut in The Last Picture Show. Discovered by Peter Bogdanovich after he saw her on the cover of a magazine, Shepherd brought a fresh-faced beauty and magnetic screen presence to the role of J.C. Farrow. But while her performance was praised by critics, it was the pool scene that defined her early career, and not necessarily in the way she had hoped. For Shepherd, the pool scene was an artistic choice, a moment that reflected her character's arc and the film's broader themes. In interviews years later, she would explain that she had no regrets about doing the scene and that she felt it was an important part of the story. However, at the time, the backlash took a personal toll. She became the target of media scrutiny, and her name was often associated more with the scandal than with her acting talent. Prominent figures like Ed Sullivan and Johnny Carson refused to have her on their shows, fearing that her presence would provoke further controversy. For a young actress just starting out in Hollywood, this was a difficult pill to swallow. The controversy surrounding the film and the pool scene overshadowed Shepherd's other accomplishments, and for a time, it seemed as though her career might be defined by that one moment of nudity. The battle for artistic freedom. While the moral outrage over the pool scene was swift, The Last Picture Show also had its defenders, particularly among those who saw the backlash as an attack on artistic freedom. Directors, writers, and critics argued that the film was a work of art, not pornography, and that the scene in question was integral to the story, not a gratuitous display of nudity. Peter Bogdanovich, in particular, was outspoken in his defense of the film. He argued that the scene was necessary to convey the complexity of J.C.'s character and that it was shot with sensitivity and taste. Bogdanovich refused to cut the scene despite pressure from some theater owners and distributors who feared the backlash. For Bogdanovich, the controversy was proof that the film had touched a nerve and that it had something important to say about the changing mores of American society. In the end, the courts sided with Bogdanovich. A federal judge ruled that The Last Picture Show was not obscene and that it had artistic merit. This legal victory was significant not just for The Last Picture Show, but for American cinema as a whole. It set a precedent for the protection of artistic expression in film and helped to pave the way for future filmmakers to explore challenging, controversial subjects without fear of censorship. It's like a reminder that art should not be censored or limited, but instead allowed to provoke thought and spark discussion. Why? Well, because it can lead to growth and change in society. Art has the power to challenge norms, push boundaries, and bring attention to important issues. And when we try to stifle or censor art that makes us uncomfortable, we do ourselves a disservice by limiting our own understanding of the world around us. The cultural shift, breaking the mold. The controversy surrounding The Last Picture Show and Cybill Shepherd's pool scene was emblematic of a larger cultural shift happening in America during the 1970s. The country was undergoing a period of rapid social change, with the sexual revolution, the civil rights movement, and anti-establishment sentiment all coming to a head. Traditional values were being questioned, and films like The Last Picture Show were at the forefront of that challenge. For many audiences, the film's depiction of small-town life, its loneliness, its repressed desires, and its quiet despair was a mirror held up to their own lives. It forced viewers to confront uncomfortable truths about the American dream and the price of conformity. The pool scene, with its defiance of societal norms, was symbolic of a generation's desire to break free from the constraints of the past. In this context, The Last Picture Show was not just a film, it was a statement. It pushed the boundaries of what could be shown on screen and opened the door for more honest, raw portrayals of the human experience in cinema. Cybill Shepherd's performance, once controversial, is now seen as groundbreaking, and the pool scene that once scandalized America is considered an iconic moment in film history. It's like, as the saying goes, the only way to make change is to break the mold. In many ways, The Last Picture Show did just that, and in doing so, it paved the way for a new era of storytelling in Hollywood. The aftermath, a legacy of controversy and triumph. In the years that followed, The Last Picture Show continued to be a subject of both admiration and debate. The film was nominated for 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, solidifying its place in the pantheon of American cinema. Cloris Leachman and Ben Johnson both won Oscars for their supporting roles, and the film was hailed as a masterpiece by critics like Roger Ebert, who called it a masterpiece of mood and emotion. Cybill Shepherd's career, too, moved forward despite the controversy. While the pool scene may have defined her early career, she went on to become a successful actress and producer, starring in hit television shows like Moonlighting. In retrospect, Shepherd has expressed pride in her work on The Last Picture Show and has said that she feels the film's legacy speaks for itself. As for Peter Bogdanovich, the success of The Last Picture Show launched him into the upper echelons of Hollywood directors. However, his career would later be marked by personal and professional struggles. The film, though, remains his crowning achievement, a work of art that challenged conventions, sparked debate, and ultimately changed the course of American cinema. The film that redefined cinema. More than 50 years after its release, The Last Picture Show is still regarded as one of the greatest films ever made. Its themes of loss, longing, and disillusionment resonate just as strongly today as they did in 1971. The controversy surrounding Cybill Shepherd's pool scene may have shocked audiences at the time, but in hindsight, it was a turning point for the film industry. A moment when filmmakers dared to tell stories that were raw, honest, and unapologetically real. For Cybill Shepherd, Peter Bogdanovich, and everyone involved in the making of The Last Picture Show, the film was more than just a project. It was a cultural touchstone, a bold statement about the power of cinema to reflect the human experience. And while the pool scene may have caused an uproar, it also helped to push the boundaries of what cinema could be, leaving a lasting legacy that continues to inspire filmmakers to this day. It's a reminder that sometimes the most controversial and uncomfortable moments in art are the ones that have the greatest impact, and that true art is never afraid to break the mold. The Last Picture Show did just that, and in doing so, it changed American cinema forever. Now, it is not the only film that has pushed the boundaries and challenged societal norms. Many films have followed in its footsteps, each one adding to the cultural conversation and shaping the ever-evolving landscape of cinema. This is because, at its core, The Last Picture Show was more than just a film. It was a symbol of the power of art to provoke thought, inspire change, and push society forward. And that is a legacy worth celebrating. Unlike many other films of its time, The Last Picture Show has stood the test of time and remains just as relevant and thought-provoking today as it was over 50 years ago. Its impact on cinema cannot be overstated, and its legacy will continue to shape the future of storytelling for generations to come. So, what do you think about The Last Picture Show? Is it a masterpiece of cinema? Did it truly revolutionize the film industry, or is it simply a product of its time? Well, please let us know your valuable thoughts in the comments section below. And as we always say, if this video gives you a newfound appreciation for this classic film, don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more captivating content. Until next time, keep watching, keep learning, and keep being inspired by the magic of cinema. It will never cease to surprise and amaze us.